going on, guys? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Red Gold Standard podcast. My name is Zach Hernandez, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, Matt Llewellyn, and our guy, Mike Andrews of Nothing But Niners. And tonight we are going to be breaking down the 49ers 19-17 Week 6 loss versus the Cleveland Browns. It was an ugly one. It was a tough one, but there's certainly a lot of takeaways from this game. Before we get into it, guys, if you are tuning in on X, head over to youtube.com/49ers Hive, youtube.com/NothingButNiners. Join from there so we can see and interact with your comments. While you're there, hit like, hit subscribe. We are on a mission to take over the world one subscriber at a time. We are currently around 3 billion. Help us get there. We appreciate everybody tuning in. Like I said, Matt, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing a lot better tonight than I was on Sunday. I'm glad we actually delayed the show because I think all of us were kind of in a state of disbelief, some irritation, some frustration, some anger. That was an ugly one, man. These things happen, and it seems like every year in the NFL, there's one weird week, and I think this was that week, right? Philadelphia lost to the Jets. We lose to the Browns in probably one of the ugliest games you'll ever see the 49ers play. I think I actually jinxed us when I was like, hey, no, the whole offense isn't going to just like not show up. And then the whole offense just didn't show up. So it was just ugly watch, frustrating watch. And it's time to put us behind us. I don't think there's anything that you can really take away from this game. This is one of those where they're going to go into the film room if they haven't already, and they're just going to burn that film and move on to Minnesota because that was a terrible performance all the way around from everybody. Everybody.
Yeah, it was tough. And before I toss it to Mike, he's probably not in here, but let me be the first to apologize to a Browns fan that did watch our preview show and said, what would a Browns win look like? And I laughed at you, sir. My apologies. I shouldn't have laughed at you. I think you were laughing too, to be fair, because you kind of chuckled in your comment, but I shouldn't have laughed because any given Sunday, any team could beat any team's ass. That's what happened Sunday. Mike, how you doing this evening?
I am great. Just got done doing a couple of different Patreon episodes. So I'm in a great mood. I've got the hookah coals on right now. I've got my little Soda Stream, little homemade drink that I do over here. It's like a raspberry, cranberry, ginger ale mix that I do. Trying to keep it light, trying to keep it clear, and I'm going to try to keep it clean tonight. We'll see how I do, but I'm actually doing really, really well. I think this is the wake-up call the 49ers need. I don't know if you guys remember when we were talking about what the win would look like and what it would do for the team. I told him, I said, I think it'll ignite something in the team. So hopefully that's what this all leads to.
Yeah, man, it's good. And the best thing about it, Philly lost, Seattle lost. It's an AFC opponent. Like, this is probably as non-consequential of a loss that this team could have suffered. And it was in week 6, still early enough to where they can recover, learn things from. So let's get into this game, obviously, right? First play of the game. Apparently, Deebo Samuel gets hurt on the jet sweep end around, whatever it's called. Injures his shoulder. I believe he plays another quarter or so, but really didn't do much. That first drive was sweet. 49ers drive it right down the field. Nice little shovel pass to McCaffrey. Gets in. And then that's about it for the rest of the first half. Matt, just real quick, like what were your kind of overall thoughts from this game? You know what I mean? Or first half, however you want to break it down. What's your take on it?
Yeah, I mean, listen, we don't really have to break it down by half because things that started after the first drive for each side of the ball, because the subsequent possession for Cleveland was an interception by Fred Warner, which put the ball deep into, Browns territory. They got good field position off of that, and they just weren't able to capitalize heavily off of, of that situation, not in the way that we want them to. I think that was the 54-yarder that Moody missed on that drive. Exactly one person on the 49ers had a good game, and that was Mitch Wishnowsky. Everybody else needs to look themselves in the mirror. I don't care if you were Nick Bosa. I don't care if you were Fred Warner with the pick. I don't care. The 49ers missed 18 tackles. They were penalized a ton, which we'll get to John Hussey's crew in a minute. The fact that I know his name is a problem. Brock Purdy was out there not getting the ball to where he needed to get to. It looked like the rain really bothered him. There was an 18-mile-an-hour wind. That looked like it bothered him too. Brandon Ayuk out there dropping passes, Christian McCaffrey getting hurt, Deebo Samuel getting hurt, Trent Williams getting hurt after he got tossed aside by Myles Garrett. The interior offensive line did nothing to stop Tomlinson, let him get inside. Nobody really looked good at all for the 49ers. And what I thought was impossible actually happened from Kyle Shanahan all the way down to the last guy. They got outplayed in all three phases of the game. Offensively, they had nothing for Cleveland's defense, which power to Cleveland's defense. They're really good. Defensively, they let PJ Walker get way too much. They let Kareem Hunt get way too much. Amari Cooper was cooking, and really they couldn't get off the field. Now, they didn't give up a ton of points, but man, they were out on the field for a long time, not getting those 3 and outs. Just an ugly performance all the way around. Jake Moody, I'm not going to harp on him too much, considering the weather conditions, considering that especially the game winner, right? 41 with an 18-mile-an-hour wind. Not exactly a gimme, a chip shot. I thought that Kyle kind of came up short on that one and needed to run a couple more plays to try to get that a little bit closer for him. I'm not going to hammer him too hard on that. We'll see what he does in Minnesota, but this was just a poor performance all the way around. The one takeaway that I could say is that the team kept fighting, and I was a little bit heartened that Brock Purdy was able to at least lead the team on the final drive to get them down the field in position. It just didn't work out for him. So unfortunate all the way around, really.
Agreed. And Mike, I'm gonna toss it to you, but just real quick, I think that was my main takeaway is everything you just said went wrong, yet they were a missed kick away from winning the game. So there's a lot of bad, but the main takeaway I think is still a little bit optimistic. Mike, what was your takeaway? I saw you post on X that the 49ers just got their ass kicked, basically. What's your takeaway?
Yeah, I couldn't have said it any better than Matt. He really ran down everything except I disagree with his very last statement. He gave Brock Purdy some credit for driving down the field on the last drive and putting the team in position to win. And while that is factual, I think people forget that we were aided by a huge penalty on 3rd down. We went 3 and out. If it weren't for that penalty, that drive was over. This offense was flat. Even in the very last drive, we were aided by that penalty on 3rd down that kept the chains moving, and then we got into position to score. And it's not like we drove a bunch of yards. It was a total of 45 yards, including the penalty yards, to get in the field goal range. So, I mean, it was just a putrid offensive performance. 2 people going down on your offense should not affect the way the entire offense runs. I've never seen anything like this before. Kudos to the Browns defense. They played a type of defense where it was, we're going to do what we want to do on defense. We're not going to let you dictate with your emotions where we go and what gaps we take and fill in all that stuff. It was motion blind, adverse. I don't know how you want to say it, but they didn't care about the motion. You literally watched those guys not follow the motion on purpose. They purposely said, no, we're not letting you dictate where we go. We're going to stay here and we're going to play. And if you get us, you get us. But if not, it's been working and they stuck with it. Kudos to them.
Which is strange because I had saw leading up to the game that this season, the Browns were most susceptible to motion, right? They were allowing the most yards against plays that had motion before the snap. And Jim Schwartz, I don't know if he just threw everything out the window. And I wasn't one of the people that was like, yo, before going into today, Jim Schwartz is, 8-1 against Kyle Shanahan, but shit, maybe there's something to it because now he's 9-1 against Kyle Shanahan. And there were certainly some questionable decisions on Kyle's end. Matt, you alluded to not running another play. I mean, they kicked that field goal. They had the ball. I think it was 3rd down with 38 seconds left. And they had a timeout. They let the clock get all the way down to 8 seconds, and then
9 or 8, yeah.
And then they spike it. They didn't even call the timeout.
Well, no, that was 2nd down. So they had a first and 10, and they ran Jordan Mason just straight up the middle, rather than doing some of those quick outs, right? And let somebody work towards the sideline.
That were working.
If you miss that we're working on that drive. If you miss the throw, then as long as you miss it towards the sideline or whatever, it's incomplete. Clock stops anyway. You're not doing anything. I just thought it was poor clock management. I think there is something to the fact that Jim Schwartz has something on Kyle Shanahan, but I also think that Kyle Shanahan gets into his own head in situations like this, and he tried to coach too cute. He started doing stuff that you're just like, this is not what the 49ers have been doing. Like the slant plays that the 49ers typically run, that was nowhere to be seen. Some of the motion with Kyle Juszczyk where he comes across the formation, nowhere to be seen. Some of the stuff that they were doing that was really working was nowhere to be seen. Mike, the whole Brock Purdy, penalty thing, penalties are part of drives, and that really wasn't makeup for the disastrous bullshit call on Tashawn Gibson. That was, I mean, I'm just going to cancel that out because that definitely was a game changer. That absolutely affected the game. I don't want to get too much into, the refs affecting the game, but the fact that there were 23 penalties for over 200 plus yards, refs too involved.
No. There were 25 accepted penalties, 12 and 13.
Okay. Yeah. 25.
Even worse.
Even worse.
Yeah.
I mean, that's horrendous. That's horrendous for like 230 or 240 yards. I think that Christian McCaffrey going down is a bitter pill to swallow, given that not one, but 2 times there were personal fouls against him when he was shoved into the bench on the sideline. And then for the 4th week in a row, somebody grabbed his face mask and you want to know why an oblique might be hurting. I don't know. Maybe it's the fact that you're standing upright and somebody tries to rip you down by your face. That could play a role. Yeah. It's getting to the point where, and I know Christian McCaffrey's downplaying it. I'm not going to downplay it for him. People are going after him, and I think that is BS, and I think the NFL needs to step up. It is, man. You name me another player who's had multiple face masks against them how many weeks in a row? I challenge you to find it because you won't.
Well, I don't watch the rest of the league closely enough to give you an answer, so I'm not going to argue against it. But I will say that I do think a big contributing factor to it is McCaffrey's his style. When he's about to make contact with the first guy, he puts his hand out to their face mask, which forces them. They just reach out naturally. And unfortunately, fortunately, it depends on if you like the penalty or not, right? Like you'll take the extra yards. They end up grabbing onto the face mask as they're reacting to his stiff arm in their face. Like
but they don't have to drag him down, though. That's the thing.
Right. Now, I agree
they're
with
not
that
letting
part,
go. Right. They're pulling. And that's where it comes into more than just incidental, oh, crap, I got the face. I mean, we've seen his head get nearly twisted off 4 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
That's not incidental face mask.
I completely agree with you there. Like the contact isn't the issue. It's what you do once you realize you're in the face mask. They have to know to let go. But if you're making contact with his face mask 10 times in a game, one of the times your momentum, your body is naturally going to, I'm falling, I got to hold on. Like that's going to happen, and it's going to warrant those kind of penalties. It's going to get those penalties. So I'm not saying that there's not an attempt to pull his face mask. I think Christian McCaffrey is too much of a marquee player for teams to be dumb enough to purposely try to do it. I think some of it's kind of like the LeBron James flop. I'm going to credit McCaffrey for getting those calls.
I think it's less of, hey, go out there and hurt the guy, and more of like, hey, he's like bread and butter, give him something extra. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to necessarily be dirty, but they're just doing like, hey, do anything you can to bring this motherfucker down. When he gets over to the sideline and Newsome, when they're 3 yards out of bounds, shoves him into the bench area, right? Like, what are you doing, bro? You can't tell me that your lack of, like, you got your eyes closed or something. You know where you are in relation to the sideline, and you don't have to give him that extra, but they're giving him that extra. There was all that stuff. There was the, bro, I don't even know what a fumble or a forward pass is anymore.
Yeah.
I don't even know, man, because to try to even justify that was a forward pass, and even Dean Blandino is like tepidly going like, well, maybe, you know what I mean? Like,
and by the way, I thought an underhand was a toss. That's not considered a throw. So it shouldn't have been a fumble either way.
It didn't even go. It didn't go forward. It was a lateral, if any, or was straight, if anything, if not back. So I don't get how it was ruled an incomplete pass. Like the whole thing. Okay, so let me. This is what I've been thinking about, and I put this out on X. There should be 3 press conferences after each game: the home team, the away team, and the officials, because they're just as big of a part as the game as the teams are. And I would love for them to have to go and explain their reasoning, explain their logic in the calls they made. We'll never get it. I don't know why, but we never will. But I was listening to, I think it was Peter King this morning, and he was saying he doesn't understand it. He could watch it 1,000 times. It's not a fumble to him, but for some reason, the refs just stuck with the call, and he's like, they're basically telling us what they think PJ Walker was thinking. They're reading his mind and telling us what his intention was. Oh, he was trying to throw the ball forward. You don't know that. All you have is the video of what he did. The ball's out of his hands before his hands moving forward. So the fact that they ruled that an incomplete pass was ridiculous.
Right. And here's what I would say. If you want to prevent this from happening again, you need to make it so that like your arm is you're in an overhand throwing motion to be an incomplete pass. You shouldn't be able to just underhand that shit. You know what I mean? Like if you want to do a scoop pass or whatever, like Mike's saying, that's like more a toss than a throw.
That's a toss, right?
But right. Well, but it goes technically it goes forward. And then the other interpretation of the rule is if he was trying to pull it back into his body, then it falls under tuck rule. Right. But at the same time, if your palm is up, that should be a fumble.
Right, exactly.
If your palm up, that should be a fumble.
But the officials have to learn to do something. And at a point in time in the game where it's a close game, I don't forget the close game. If it's a play like that, you have to err on the side of caution. You rule it whatever way you're allowed to review it and reverse it.
Thank you. Because they blew it dead.
They make the call and just make it unchallengeable. You can't do that in the NFL. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's what frustrated most. If you rule it one way, it's automatically reviewed, right? You can make sure it's correct. If you rule it the other way, that's it. So why not? And it was within 2 minutes, so it's not like you could even be challenged. Why not rule it a fumble?
I mean,
and then make sure.
I mean, but here's the thing: they auto-reviewed it anyway.
They did, but
and then they still, and if they would have ruled it a fumble, Nick Bosa had a clear recovery, so it would have been down where he recovered the football. It would have been 49ers football. It's not like they wouldn't have got it, but I understand in as a general rule, you should. I've always hated the blowing of the whistle thing, right? Like you just let it play out, rule it so that you can auto-review it. I understand underneath 2 minutes, although I will say John Hussey and crew, I don't think that they had the mental wherewithal to know that it was under 2 minutes when they blew it dead. So I just I feel like every time that dude referees and I see him, it's just I wouldn't be surprised if he's one of the biggest like flag throwing crews in the NFL with that guy.
So obviously that call, obviously the defenseless hit, whatever the hell they called on Deshaun Gibson on the drive that ultimately took the lead.
And then like 2 plays later, the phantom call on Charvarius Ward.
On Ward. But I think the three of us will ultimately live by the saying, don't let it get to the point where the refs can fuck you, right? Like don't let it get to the point where those calls determine the game, because it shouldn't even have come to that. If the 49ers are doing their job correctly, they could call 10 bad calls and maybe it's a 1-score, like it shouldn't have gotten to that point. And as much as it sucks, you need to account for the refs, like you account for the weather, like you account for injuries, it's just an aspect of the game that sometimes you're going to have to overcome. And Sunday they weren't able to, but if you would have told me that you lose Christian McCaffrey after the first half, however long he plays. Debo gets hurt on the first play. Troy Williams out there limping with a sprained ankle. And it's a little rainy. It's a little windy. And you get all these bad calls and crucial moments. And you still have a chance to win it on the last offensive series of the game. I take that. I take that every time because that's not going to be like that every Sunday. Unfortunately, it was this Sunday, but it wasn't. It's not going to be like that every Sunday. Matt, I'm going to ask you. Jake Moody obviously missed 2 kicks. A lot of people immediately, where's Robbie Gold? The 49ers messed up by drafting him. They should have never let Robbie walk. Did they mess up by going with Jake over Robbie? And is this a problem you're concerned about long-term for Jake?
No and no. People have short memories because in the New Year's Day game against the Raiders last year, Robbie Gold had a chance to end the game before it went to overtime and he missed in a dome. So you can miss me with all that shit. How many times did Robbie Gould miss routine extra points? Like he did it every year. So it's not like he was perfect in the playoffs, sure. But you're talking about a guy who you're trying to replace in the long term, right? Gould's last couple of years here were marred by the fact that in a lot of instances, he didn't seem like he wanted to be here. Seemed like he did the bare minimum effort. We weren't getting touchbacks because the dude didn't want to do kickoffs, right? All this different kind of stuff. And it's just one of those things where it's easy to criticize Jake Moody for going out there and missing kicks. first, again, you're talking about bad weather conditions outdoors in Cleveland, 18-mile-an-hour winds, not like gusts, 18 steady with gusts higher than that. You're talking about trying to kick a ball from 54, which is no gimme in perfect conditions, right? And then 41, which is not a chip shot either. That's a medium range field goal. And you add in the weather stuff and you can talk about pressure, whatever. But this dude played 4 years at Michigan in Big Ten college football in a lot of the big moments. It's not like he's afraid of the moment. And these are the first 2 kicks that he's missed in the regular season. Yeah, he had some gaffes in the preseason, but that's, to me, this is one of those things where you got to see what he does next. Just go out immediately and complain that we don't have Robbie Gould. Can anybody tell me where Robbie Gould's playing? Because it wasn't just the 49ers that didn't want his ass.
He's home.
He's playing golf.
Right.
He's playing that dude on Instagram. He's at the green every day.
Exactly. Nobody wanted him. So you can miss me with that. That's just, that's low hanging fruit to go after and criticize the kicker for, it's super easy to criticize the kickers for whatever is going on, but that was those were tough kicks, man. They were tough kicks.
Yeah. And nobody said shit.
I'm not going to hammer him.
5,
right. Now, if he starts shanking him in Minnesota in the Dome on Monday night, then maybe we have a problem, but I need to see something different because he, up until that point, he hadn't missed anything in the regular season.
He was perfect. He was perfect up until that point. And again, Robbie is getting up there in age, right? Like it was either this year, next year. How many years realistically was he going to continue playing? A couple. So the 49ers had an opportunity at a really, really good kicker prospect in college. They don't come along that often. I'm not mad that they took the shot, right? Like you take a shot, you try to replace a pivotal piece with a long-term solution. Mike, I'm going to toss to you, but I'm going to ask you, we saw what happened pregame. We saw the energy getting riled up and the fight and both sides going at it. And, Debo in the middle of it, of course. This dude got hurt on the first play. Does that bother you at all? Not obviously that he got hurt, but just you're out there causing a fight. Ultimately, you weren't there to back it up. How do you feel about that? Does that, because maybe I feel a little way. Maybe that's just me.
It doesn't bother me mainly because he was defending Ayuk. So I've watched the video a couple of times. I can't tell if Ayuk was doing like the money.
That's what I thought.
Or if he was clapping. But either way, your hands are obviously too close to someone else's face. That was a violation. But when Ayuk got pushed, Debo came in right away. I'm never mad at teammates standing up for each other. That's never going to be the issue. Now, separately from that, him not being around during the game to do anything, that's been a Debo issue. It's if he's injured, he's going to miss X amount of games, or if he's like laboring, they'll put him out there, but as a distraction. We've already seen that happen this year where he's not part of the game plan because he's nursing something, right? Like and then you go on Twitter and you want to start like this war. Like you can't laugh at someone for being on the sideline when your ass is on the sideline yourself. Like it's just weird. It's weird energy to me. I don't know, man. It was the Browns were on a mission. They succeeded. It started with Christian McCaffrey. It went to Debo, and they just continued to dominate on the defensive side of the ball. They had the Niners flustered from before the snap even happened, before the first snap of the game.
There was a lot of, all I'll say is there's a lot of corniness going on both sides of the field. I saw the Browns did the 49ers entrance with the boombox. They did that and then didn't put it out until after they won. That's just corny. That's just corny. If you're going to do that, put it out before the game, and then they go out there when Moody misses the kick. They're celebrating like they just won a Lombardi. I'm not mad at it, right? Like they to the victor go the spoils. They get to celebrate however they want. They won. They physically beat the crap out of the 49ers. I'm not mad at it, but it did rub me the wrong way a little bit just seeing Debo talk the shit and then immediately get hurt.
And so it's something we're not used to, right? The 49ers get physically outworked.
Not at all.
Particularly the offensive line. And listen, there are people on Twitter saying that Purdy wasn't under pressure. Y'all are tripping. The other people in here talking about how Moody should have made all those kicks too. Y'all are tripping too. You guys are the first Charlie Brown looking mofos trying to kick a field goal. You guys couldn't even make a 10-yard field goal. Y'all
Purdy
was
ridiculous. Purdy was under pressure sometimes. Like, to say that he wasn't is silly, but he also struggled in very clean pockets. He was also moving when he didn't have to move. So, I mean, I get people trying to say it wasn't so what happens is there's extremisms on both sides.
It's a bridge too far
immediately after the game, right? So you're gonna have people blaming strictly the offensive line, and it's like now you're gonna get people who are linemen, like people who are former linemen, people who like to break down the film. Well, he wasn't under as much pressure as what you guys are making it, but it seems extreme because now you're going at everyone who was saying it was the offensive line, right? So now it's making it look like he wasn't under that much pressure, but he was under pressure, and when he had clean pockets, he was still inaccurate. He still got his happy feet look different than the happy feet that we're used to. His happy feet doesn't come with the ball padding, the ball tapping, and then the footwork. He gets really stiff-legged and just moves. So the way you look at Brock Purdy's happy feet, these are tells that are now going to be out there on film. His happy feet were the opposite. Like, he got stiff-legged and then he would just move. And it's like, well, what are you moving for? The pocket's clean. So we can't speak in any sort of absolute right now because it wasn't an absolute thing. It wasn't he was under pressure the whole time. That's why he looked bad. It wasn't that he had clean pockets and he looked terrible in the clean pockets. It was a mixture of both.
So I pulled this up from David Lombardi. It's the how close the defensive players were, I believe, on average. The league average is 4.56 yards. Myles Garrett was 3.27 yards away from Brock Purdy on average Sunday. Zadarius Smith, 3.73. Dalvin Tomlinson, 4.08. And Okoronkwo, 4.13. So all four were above the league average Sunday versus Purdy.
Hey, go ban that dude in the chat right now.
But this doesn't count for. This doesn't count. Who are we getting rid of?
I think it's on Mike's chat.
Oh, it's on Mike's chat. Never mind.
Something I have to do. What's the name?
H-Town Made. We don't need that kind of language up in here, bro.
All right. I don't know what he said. I just clicked it. All right.
You guys be civil. All right.
But they like this graphic. Okay, cool. He was 3 yards away from Brock Purdy. So 10 feet's not enough space. 9 feet's not enough space. I don't like these. There's certain people
with
that
his wingspan. I mean, he could probably touch him from 10 feet away.
Hey, bro, Purdy's 3 feet tall, bro. Like, come on now.
Myles Garrett can stand in, Cleveland and have one arm in Pittsburgh. Like, this dude is a beast.
This isn't
cute. Here's what I'll say though. If Myles Garrett is 3.27 yards away from Brock Purdy, then that means Trent Williams is right in Brock Purdy's lap, and Brock Purdy ain't gonna be able to see over Trent Williams.
He had no sacks and no quarterback hits. So I don't care how close or far away he was. He didn't touch Brock all night long.
Weren't you just telling Matt in the preview show that Bosa? Don't tell me that Bosa hasn't done much because he's been impacting games, even though he wasn't on the stat sheet. You just told Matt that on Saturday. Yeah, you did.
Oh, I thought you said. You said pre. I thought you meant like.
No, it wasn't Nick Bosa. It was that punk ass bitch Zadarius Smith.
Thank you.
The one who was the one who grabbed Christian McCaffrey's face mask, and that's the only time I saw him.
So
you guys don't want my real thoughts on Nick Bosa and his production this year. I'm trying to be nice in pregame shows. I am trying to be pro 49ers in pregame shows. Going into it, I'm going to talk shit. I'm going to hype us up. I'm going to big us up.
Don't be nice. Say what you feel, man. You can say what you feel.
Come on, we all feel the same way. Nick Bosa is not Nick Bosa this year. We can all sit here and try to.
I agree with that. He hasn't
the missed OTAs.
Especially, and I will say the one thing that's been irritating me about Nick Bosa right now is that, unlike years past, when the play gets away from Nick Bosa's not running after the play.
Yeah. Right.
If you watch him, he stops.
He's just done. Yeah, he's done.
I don't like to see that. I don't know what that is, but I hope it's all right.
Yeah, it is what it is. I think Purdy, it's unfortunate that it played out the way it did. I think arguably one of the best throws I've ever seen him hit Ayuk right in the palms. Bounced right off his palms. And it was third and long, third drive. I'm not sure. Ayuk does separate. I don't know if he gets caught up or if he doesn't think the ball's coming. He kind of stutter steps and then gets going again, and the ball's already in the air. And I mean, he goes to grab it and it just bounces right off both palms.
If he catches it, it's 6.
At the very least, it's 6. At the very least, it's a giant gain, right? And then, unfortunately, later he misses a wide open Christian McCaffrey. That's also 6 if he hits. Like, the plays were there, and there was also a handoff. I want to say it was 7-0. I could be wrong, but a handoff to the left side, McCaffrey with Juice in front of him. There's absolutely nobody on that entire side of the field except for the guy that Juice is blocking. Juice somehow he gets fought through his block, and that guy makes the tackle. So the plays, like always, Kyle Shanahan calls were there. I mean, this game could have easily have been 14-0, 17-0. It just didn't work out. You know, the ball bounced the other way, unfortunately.
Even the overthrow to Ayuk where he was wide open, the overthrow to Christian McCaffrey when he was wide open, both of those would have been at bare minimum. I don't know if Christian McCaffrey has the juice to finish that off, but he had his guy beat by 7-8 yards easily, and he just and I was talking to guys during the live game, and people were like, Shanahan's play calling. I said, no, what you guys don't realize is it's always little play, and then hit them with a boom. The 3 boom plays were dialed up this game.
Yep.
That's normally a 49ers game. We get you with the 3 boom plays. We make you suffer for it. It's either 3 touchdowns or 3 60-yard plus gains. And then it's like, okay, the defense has to start backing up after the boom plays. But because we weren't hitting on them, the defense said, hey, we don't give a shit about that downfield stuff. Yeah. They're not doing it. We'll stop when it's not working. If it's still working, we're going to continue to do it. They didn't try to fix what wasn't broken. And if you're not going to take advantage of what a team is giving you, there's no need for the team to change anything that they're doing. That's what we saw the entire duration of this game. The kicker can't kick. We don't care about the field goals. Go ahead and attempt it. You're not going to hit the open guy downfield. Then keep throwing it to him. That's fine.
No, I agree with you. Brock Purdy was off all game. That interception was trash. Like,
just throwing behind.
He
the
really
self-recovered fumble. Like what? Fuck?
Yep.
All right, man.
Yeah,
it's fine.
Yeah, just no good all the way around. He was not good, and we'll see how he recovers from that, and we'll see what he does going forward. Now, I don't want to be the one that's just like, see, told you he was trash. You know, there's those guys out there.
A lot of people were waiting for that.
Oh yeah, of course they were. There were people out there with like 30 message threads on X going like, see, this is bad. Weren't saying shit when he was playing good. So yeah, this is one you just got to throw away. This is one of those games where each team has one of these every single year where they just play like absolute trash and you just got to throw away the film. And this is that game for the 49ers.
See, and this is where we differ. I don't want them to throw it away. I think there should be still shots posted around the locker room of this game. I want. You know what I mean, though.
You know what I mean, though. This isn't something.
I get what you're saying.
I'm saying like you don't look at this film and go like, oh, this was positive. This was positive. This is like film room is y'all are getting your ass chewed, and then it's time to move on. Like you're gonna sit there and see all your bullshit, and then you got to get ready for Minnesota or whatever. Yeah. But yeah, I'm telling you, like that in terms of throwing it away, there's no like moral victory to come out of this, right? You can't be like, well, this was good and this was good. There's none of that. Everybody played like shit.
Aside from Mitch.
Do you guys think that after Debo was out, Kyle tried to use McLeod in Debo's place?
Yes, 100%. I mean, it was obvious.
Yeah.
And Kyle said beforehand, or maybe it was after, was supposed to be a big Debo game. And I think for some reason he just thought, I'll just swap the pieces. And
I don't understand why you wouldn't go with the guy that's more physical in Ronnie Bell. If you're trying to run Debo type stuff, you need a more physical wide receiver. Ray McLeod is Charmin soft. I hate the way he returns the ball. He doesn't fight through anything. Like I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan.
Doesn't make good decisions. That screen pass, I mean, he was just off the whole time, but he runs right into Trent. And Purdy said there was a defender in his lap, and he's trying to get the ball out, and he looks, and there's still, he throws the ball at Trent's feet because Ray ran right into Trent. It was all over the place. I wanted to address this comment real quick from how about talking in Grubber Media. Don't use weather as an excuse. Browns played in that same weather too. Dustin Hopkins missed a field goal earlier in the game. There's a reason it's called home field advantage, right? They're used to this weather. Like and yes, Hopkins missed a kick, but the players have been there the whole time. Like this is something that an environment they're used to. It's not Santa Clara. It's not.
But doesn't that prove the point though?
That it
Hopkins
was.
yes.
Yeah.
Like you have no idea. The way that the stands are configured is going to change the way that the air moves 10 yards above the field versus what the weather's like down on the field. Like you have no idea. If the wind stops and he tries to aim more left, which I think is what happened on the first one. If you watch the flags, when he kicks that ball, the flags go limp and he misses it left. So then he tries to compensate the other way and the wind doesn't stop and then pushes it right. I think y'all think you know too much about kicking, and it's a lot more nuanced than you people are giving it credit for. And was it bad that he missed? Yes. I'm not trying to say he shouldn't have missed the field goal, like he should have made the field goal or whatever, what have you. But it's not as simplistic as, oh, well, you should have just made the kick.
Yeah. I saw this tweet from Weather Applied Metrics. Last kick of the 49ers-Browns game, initial kick was headed 0.44 yards from the goalpost center, dead center, right? The spin took it rightwards, additional 0.82 yards. The wind then pushed it an additional 2.39 yards further right for a total of 3.64 yards from the center of the goalpost, resulting in a missed field goal. So it was a little bit off, and then the wind carried it that much more off, which, by the way, sounds like if it was another 3 to 4 yards closer, this field goes in. If my understanding of this is correct. What's up, Mike?
How wide are I thought the goalposts were 15 yards. How wide are they?
That's a good question. I don't know. How wide?
18 feet 6 inches.
Oh, 18 feet. 18 feet.
Yeah.
So that's
18 yards. Yeah. And that's the thing, too. So you're talking from 41 yards, which is 123 feet away. You're aiming at a target that's 18 feet 6 inches wide. That's, I believe it's 10 feet high for the crossbar. 10 feet high, 18 6 across. Yeah. And y'all are just out here just saying like, man, he should have just made it. Like, I get it. If he was in a dome or with no wind or anything like that, sure, man. But weather like that, bro.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to hammer a kicker for missing 240-plus yarders in that type of weather. I'm just not going to do it, dude.
The biggest problem to me coming out of that game were the penalties, and maybe John Hussey and his crew were just flag happy. But either way, every single fucking first down turned into a 1st and 20, 2nd and 25. Once you get that far behind the sticks against a defense as aggressive as the Cleveland Browns, you're not going to have much success against that. It killed every drive before it started.
And here's I'm gonna go back to what you said, Zach. People hammering on the kicker. If the 49ers play better, then it's not close enough for the kicker to fuck them either.
Exactly.
You don't want the refs to fuck you. You don't want to leave it in the kicker's foot. Take care of business other ways, it wouldn't have happened. But to just put it all on Jake Moody is bullshit, man. Everybody played poorly except for Mitch.
Yeah. And that's what Fred said, basically, I'm not going to put that on Jake. Jake tried to basically come in and save the day, but he shouldn't have been put in that position to begin with.
Speaking of Fred Warner's comments, he later on.
See his podcast?
Yeah. Well, he later went on to say, "I never want to feel this way again." Now, what do you guys think he meant? Because, and yes, that is Charmin behind me because Matt said McLeod is Charmin soft.
Ray Charmin soft, baby. Well, okay, so I have some insight. I caught a clip of his podcast where he was like talking about the loss or whatever. He's like, dude, we totally expected to have a physical game out there, but we expected to win. We should have won that game, and we lost it. He's like, everybody in the locker room was feeling bad because we're not used to losing. He's like, and that's a good thing. We shouldn't be used to losing. And then he kind of said, like, at the end of the day, we got to learn from it and move on. Like, it's a loss. It sucks. We don't want to lose. We're going to use this as motivation. But we're in this for the trophy that you get to kiss at the end of the season. We're not in it for an undefeated season. So we got to take our lumps and move on. And I thought that was a good perspective. But I think the whole, like, I don't want to ever feel like this again is one of those things where, like, they just don't I have not seen. I mean, week 3 against Denver, right, was the last time I saw this 49ers team play this badly.
Yeah,
it's just weird.
Go ahead.
For a guy to say that we don't expect to win every regular season game, to go out and say, I don't want to feel this way again. And I'm just wondering the specific feeling he's talking about. It's clearly not losing.
He's talking about getting his ass kicked, I think.
Right. And he wasn't saying like, oh, we don't expect to win every game. What he's saying is, I don't give a shit about the undefeated season if we don't get to win it at the end of it, is what he's saying.
I took that as I don't want, if I go out there and I feel like as a team, we fucking played our hearts out and literally gave it everything we could and we lost at the end of the day. I think that's easier to live with than knowing there were opportunities that you just let slip by. And I think that's what he means, that knowing, yes, we lost and yes, the Browns deserve this win. They earned this win, but we still feel like we could have done more. Like we didn't leave it all out there. There were missed throws, there were penalties, there were, things that didn't go our way. Like, I think that's what he means by that feeling.
Yeah.
Did you have a different take, Mike?
No, well, kind of, but I don't want to. I don't want to put it out there yet because it's like I'm not sure what he meant. I'll be honest with you. I'm not sure what he meant, but I did a Patreon episode earlier today that is just finished downloading, so I'm going to be posting it soon. But between the comments of what he said, Shanahan and Bosa, like I feel like it's not just about the results of the game. And I don't think it's just about the penalties and losing, right? Like Fred, for all intents and purposes, had a pretty good game, right? Like Fred was on point. But there's something that's off right now. There's something. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the defensive coordinator. I don't know if it's the defensive play calling. But for Fred to say, like, I don't want to feel this way again, like you held a team under 20 points. You had the second highest scoring team in the league on the other side of the ball from you. Like, you should be happy about that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you told me coming into this game, forget everything, the Niners were going to have to beat a team that put up 19 points. I think we would all say, all right, we got that. We just need 3 touchdowns throughout the whole game. We got that. If I told
you trying to say that he's trying to put that on the offense, then
I don't know what I'm trying to say. I don't know. I'm not exaggerating. I'm not lying. I don't know what exactly he was trying to say. But I think there's more to I don't ever want to feel that way again than just we lost the game in the regular season. And then he goes on to say, we're not here to win all the games in the regular season. We want the trophy because the trophy's still well within reach.
But he didn't say we're not here to win all the regular season games. That's not what he said. He said it's not about an undefeated season. It's about winning, because that's just reality. They lost. Yeah. So he's like, who gives a shit about the undefeated season at this point? It's about getting the trophy. But I think that's a little bit of a disconnect there. And I actually disagree with you. I think Fred Warner was actually late in a lot of spots, and I think that the absence of Dre Greenlaw hurt him a little bit because there was a lot of
trying to overcompensate for the absence of Greenlaw.
But to me, then that's not having a good game. If you're not staying within yourself and you feel like you have to do extra or whatever, you know what I mean? That's not necessarily having a good game. And I don't know how much is off when you just came off of a nationally televised 42-10 ass whooping of the Cowboys. I don't know. I think it's a little bit too much of a reaction to say like something's off. I think they just got their ass kicked and they didn't like how it felt to finally be bullied by somebody. That's where I'm coming from. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, and I get what you're saying in terms of like, you don't want anybody to, give up the ghost in terms of, oh yeah, like I don't care about winning every game. Like I get if that was what I thought, like what I thought he was saying was not that. I get if that's what you think, then that would be a problem for sure. If I felt that way, that would be a problem too. I don't know, man.
So all right, let me go back a week. Micah Parsons went out afterwards on his podcast and said the better team didn't win. He said that we're just as good as them. I still think we're as good as the Niners, blah, 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 right? Now, we all scoffed and laughed at it like, bro, the results are the results. You're not better than us. Every leader on the 49ers went to the podium and said they were the better team today. Is it as simple as that? Like Fred never wants to feel like we're not the better team?
It's as simple as the 49ers have a better culture around their team than what Dallas does. Dallas is in it for themselves. And so they're feeling their own hype and whatever. But you can't tell me that a 32-point ass whooping is the same as having an opportunity to win the game at the last second, despite all the shit that happened. And then you still go out there with class and be like, the better team won today.
If Moody made that kick, do you think we still get these same comments from the 49ers players?
No, because the result would be different.
Tone down a little bit.
No, they wouldn't say the better. They wouldn't have been like they were the better team today.
Not that.
They would have been like, we have to play. Hey, we got out with the win, but we have to play better.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, they wouldn't have said we didn't deserve this win. They'd say there's a ton we got to clean up. Luckily, we escaped. Jay came through for us and saved our asses.
They would have been like, hey, we knew coming into this game that it was going to be really tough, really physical. That's a hell of a football team over there. We're glad to get out of here with a win. We need to clean up some of the mistakes that we made, and we can play better. We got to come out and play better. That's what they do every single time. This team never gets too high, never gets too low, and they certainly don't go on a podcast and try to say that a 32-point ass whooping that they were still the better team. That's some bullshit.
Yeah. So I saw a bunch of people saying the Browns just gave the NFL the blueprint on how to beat the 49ers and how to stop them. Yeah, sure. If you have a Myles Garrett, if you have a, Newsome and the secondary, if you have this defense, which no other NFL team does, Philly maybe the closest, Dallas as well, the Jets maybe, but you have to have the personnel in order to do what Cleveland just did. I would love for them to try it.
And the weather.
And the weather. And the injury luck. And the referee luck. So many things went badly.
So I saw a stat that they're giving up the least amount of passing yards per game since like 1970.
Yeah.
Through 6 weeks.
Yeah.
They're giving up 140 yards passing a game.
Yeah.
Who's that? The Browns?
The Browns.
They're phenomenal pass defense. Number one in the NFL.
I will say that I do think that there's something to the Browns gave a little bit of a blueprint, right? So I said this, I think I said this in our pregame show, our preview show, where, you guys said, how do you stop a team like the Niners? And my response was, you have to adopt that Vic Fangio mentality. There's one ball. Who cares about how many weapons they have or what plays they're going to run? There's one ball. And I sincerely feel that that's what the Browns went out there and followed. It was, I talked about already, they didn't care about the motion. They were like, we're not going to let you motion us out of our play calls until it's not working for us. It never didn't work for them. So maybe teams start to adapt that. Maybe the motion that the Niners run on 85% of their offensive snaps all of a sudden doesn't matter anymore. And then we're talking a whole different type of game plan. I'm just saying maybe that's what people were talking about.
I could see that. But I could also see, Mike, let me ask you, if this game was played in sunshine, 70-degree weather in Santa Clara, does the offense for the 49ers look as discombobulated? Does Brock Purdy look as off? Because you had to have a ton of things happen to even get it to that point, and the 49ers still almost won. Brock Purdy played his worst game as a professional. Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel get hurt. Brandon Ayuk out there with butterfingers. George Kittle a no-show. Trent Williams getting dog walked by Myles Garrett for a lot of the game, right? Interior defensive line giving up pressures. Kyle Shanahan coaching against a coach that apparently has his number. And then you throw weather on top. This was like a perfect storm game for the Cleveland Browns to do something. And the 49ers were a missed field goal away from winning the game and still putting up 20 despite all that. I don't know if that's necessarily a blueprint, as it was a perfect amalgamation of different pieces coming together and really working against the 49ers. I always say it, weather narrows the talent gap. And somebody in here had a great comment, and I want to go up and find it. But that pregame fight did not help the 49ers. That put it in, especially when you got the pregame fight and the 2 personal fouls on the first drive of the game. Now the referees feel like they got to dig in their pocket too, and you dirty up the game.
Exactly.
And that further narrows the talent gap.
Yep.
And so you got this perfect storm of everything that could go. It was Murphy's Law. Anything that could go wrong did go wrong for the 49ers. I don't know you can necessarily pull a blueprint out of that.
Yeah. All right. So I think
they
go ahead, Mike.
No, they held the Niners to half of their average per game. It's literally half of what they were averaging per game. I'm not saying that it's a blueprint to beat the Niners, but people were legit saying, how do we slow this offense down? That was a question. That was a question. And the Cowboys thought they had something. Hey, we slow down or stop Christian McCaffrey, we got a chance. Well, that didn't work. That obviously didn't work. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. I don't know.
I think by nature, if Christian McCaffrey leaves the game via injury, the offense is going to slow itself down. If Deebo Samuel is a shell of himself running routes out there, the offense is going to slow it. You know, like, yes, I'm giving Cleveland Browns 100% credit. They had a fantastic game plan. They came in, they executed it. They played very well. But also the 49ers got injured. You know, like two of their best players did not finish the game. Well, that impacts the offense a lot.
And self-inflicted wounds. Trent Williams, you know, false start, right? Who was it? Banks,
Burford.
You know, in on a 3rd and short or whatever with a false start. They go 3rd and long. Yeah, the Browns held the 49ers to half of their average, but were the 49ers even 50% of what they normally are? That's the real question. There was a lot of stuff going. Like I said, it's such a shitty game that I don't know what I can personally pull from it in terms of going forward. I need to see what they do against Minnesota before I decide to make any type of long-lasting impression, because for all I know, this was just the worst game that the 49ers are going to play this season, and they're going to come right back out next week and pick up where they left off. You know what I mean? And Mike, like you said it earlier, right? This is a game where you feel like this was the perfect time for this to happen to them so that they could, you know, this is the best thing to happen to the team going forward or whatever. I kind of feel that way too. You get that whole, because I'm guilty of it. And if I was guilty of it, I know some of the players were, right? And Mike, you were at the same spot, right? What were you insinuating? If they get over 23 points against Jim Schwartz and they win this game and cover that 9.5, then we're looking at a team that, dang, do they go undefeated? Now all that talk is squashed. We don't have to worry about that anymore. Now it's back to football. And I know that stuff was starting to creep into the player's mind, because you start looking at the schedule, you start looking ahead. And I feel like this is one of those games where they started looking ahead and just they got smacked in the mouth. And sometimes the best way to wake Big Brother up is when little brother comes in and sucker punches him. You know what I'm saying? So who knows? Maybe that's exactly what they needed.
One thing that pissed me off the most, and I'm not remembering fully what happened, so correct me if there was a penalty or something, but the 49ers' second to last drive of the game, right? I believe they get the ball back up 1 point. Is it 14?
Yeah.
13 or what was it? Yeah. To get the ball back up 1 point, and Kyle Shanahan calls 3 passes.
Yep.
They had the clock for a total of 25 seconds.
I think the first one was the intentional grounding on Brock Purdy, so then it was 2nd and 20.
Okay. But
yeah, that entire drive took 21 seconds.
Yeah.
Or 22 seconds or whatever it was.
Didn't force the Browns to use any of their timeouts. They get the ball back, and the rest is history. But it's like, man, I know the penalties really set back this offense, but I don't know. A lot of decisions I'm questioning.
And why the delay in making Mason your backup?
Yes.
You're going to go to a guy who's been sitting on the bench for how fucking long instead of Mason, who's got like league-ready legs underneath him?
Averaged 7 yards a carry last week.
And then, okay. All right. CMC's down. Okay, Mitchell. Let's go. Like, what?
Yeah.
Now, I will say this. I don't know what Mitchell did in pass protection, but I did see Mason literally go to the wrong side on a couple of plays and miss blocks. So maybe that was why. Maybe it's the protection thing. But for the plays that you know you're going to be running the ball, not for nothing personally, I didn't want to see a guy just coming off of injury in there instead of McCaffrey. That's me personally. That's my personal take. Now, I'm playing Madden, right? I'm not in there. I have no idea what they saw throughout the week of practice and all that stuff. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe they sincerely felt, hey, you know, Elijah Mitchell's back. He's 100%. He's ready to go. His legs are under him. I'm not rushing that kid back out there after being inactive for so fucking long. Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. I can't justify it. I can't sit here and convince myself, and I've tried. Mike, why do they go to Mitchell instead of Mason when CMC went down? I can't. Mitchell, Mason, and McCaffrey. Oh shit, we got triple M's.
I think you're touching on a good point. Mason is very bad as a pass blocker. He's not good in pass pro. But 2 carries for -3 yards for Elijah Mitchell and no burst. He looks like he's got no burst. I'm with you. He needs more time to get into football shape. Let him practice, but you don't necessarily have to play him.
Right. But the thing is, right, I understand what you're saying. Terrible in pass pro. Cool. I accept that. It was never more than a 1-score game for either team. You don't have to come out passing all the time. I just felt like we outsmarted ourselves so many times in this game, specifically on the offensive side of the ball. I just don't get it. Yeah. I don't get it.
I want to play this clip. This is Kyle talking about Mason and Mitchell going into week 7 with the potential of a McCaffrey injury, I believe. So I'm going to play it real quick. 47 seconds.
Would you be okay with Jordan Mason being the top running back in that game?
Yeah, we'll see how. I mean, Elijah's earned a ton with us over these years. I think Elijah, when he's been healthy, has been as good of a back as there is. He's had a hard time staying healthy, but I also can't take away anything from JP. I mean, every time JP's got his opportunities, you guys see how he's done. So both of those guys have done very well. You know, Elijah came back and practiced late last week on Thursday. So he got really one true day of practice in, and that's why JP got the first nod once Christian came out. But we got 2 really good players there, and I know Ty Davis is waiting for his opportunity also. So hopefully Christian will be good to go this week. But if not, we got a group of backs that we can rely on.
So my main takeaway is immediately he's asked about Jordan Mason, and he pivots to Mitchell and what Mitchell has earned. I don't know. What more does Jordan Mason need to do other than be better in pass pro?
It's the problem that I have with sometimes player coaches. They get too caught up in the optics of something, right? Oh, well, Mitchell has earned. Dude, the NFL, that famous quote, NFL stands for not for long, right? What have you done for me lately? And Mitchell had a great rookie year. What has he done since then other than get injured? Nothing. So I feel like Kyle feels like he owes him based on reputation rather than putting the best guy out there. And I feel like the way that Mason is running the ball, he's the better running back to back up Christian McCaffrey at this point. Pass pro be damned. I don't care if run Jordan Mason if you want to make it not one-dimensional, when Jordan Mason is out there, you can run him on some of those running back choice routes. He caught a pass 2 weeks ago.
He's good
on one of those Texas routes.
Yep.
So he can catch the ball. If you don't want him blocking, run a route with him.
And don't tell me about Jordan Mason's fumbles either.
Yeah.
Where are the fumbles in the NFL? Like, where are the fumbles during games? Like, all right, you guys are scared because of preseason and all that shit. Like, I think I can remember maybe one fumble for Jordan Mason in the league. Like, stop it, man. Stop it. You can't name me a fucking running back that doesn't have a fumble before. And if that's the case, if that's what you're concerned with, then just fucking cut him. Don't let him be on the team if you're worried about him fumbling the ball. Don't have a wide receiver on the team if you think he's got butterfingers. Then he's no fucking good to you at his position. That's it. There's no in between. We make too many excuses for why Kyle may not, maybe should have done what. No, fuck that. If these guys are here, it's next man up mentality. And Kyle is the king of riding the hot hand. That's exactly how your guy over in Miami, Raheem Mostert, got the name that he fucking earned, because Kyle decided to ride the hot hand in that playoff game. He wasn't the top back in that game. People forget that shit all the time. It was like, oh man, there's something going on with Mostert. We got to let this guy keep going. And he set a franchise record for rushing yards in the postseason as a running back who wasn't the starter. He was not the starter, right? So don't tell me that Kyle doesn't see someone that's good and say, hey, I got to stick with this guy. You just chose to put Mitchell in. For what reason? What video does he have of you? Like, what where's the evidence? What's happening? I don't know, man. Like, this shit was frustrating. It was annoying. I know I shouldn't be acting the way I'm sorry, guys.
No, you're good. Hey, you know what? I like the fire. By the way, in regular season play, Jordan Mason has 0 fumbles in the NFL. You know who fumbled at the 1-yard line last week? Christian McCaffrey, but you don't want to see him benched, right? And you can't tell me on a day where, was it 2 weeks ago that Christian McCaffrey fumbled, or was it last week?
The Cowboys game, last week.
Okay. I thought it was a Cardinals game, maybe.
No, it was
I'm not
after
sure.
interception.
Anyway, you can't tell me on a day where Brock Purdy is spraying the ball all around the field and can't hit the fucking broadside of a barn that you're more worried about Jordan Mason fumbling the ball than you are Brock Purdy maybe potentially throwing a really bad throw. And so in a critical point where you need to run some clock, you don't run the ball at all. That's a Kyle Shanahan thing. I don't want to hear shit about Mason from anybody because that's a cop-out.
And
That's a cop-out. It was bad play calling, bad play by the offense all the way around. No excuse for it. You can't put that on Mason's. Oh, Mason might fumble. Like, coulda, woulda, shoulda. Like, wishing one hand, shit in the other. You know what I mean?
And last week, the 49ers, that was a dogfight, right? They desperately needed a physical runner. Who was the more physical of the runners, Mason or Elijah Mitchell? Mason. It's Mason. Mason's the guy who's the mutter. He's going to go in there, fight for the extra yards.
I'd like to see Ty Davis-Price get some run.
That too.
He's more physical than all of them.
Yeah. And on the flip side, they desperately missed Dre Greenlaw. Not only his playmaking ability, but just his presence. He sets that tone on defense. He's so physical. He would have been up for that match, that battle, 1,000%. This defense missed his presence. They missed his energy. They missed his playmaking abilities. They missed his coverage. There are a couple of plays where he probably sacks the quarterback that instead PJ Walker just kind of slipped away. So they missed both. They missed Greenlaw on defense, and Mason should have got more play on offense. Can we talk about Randy Gregory, guys? You guys want to talk about Randy Gregory real quick?
All right.
He was
Why
all
do
right.
you look annoyed, Mike?
Because I'll wait till you see what you got to say. I don't want to.
I was impressed. I was impressed with Randy Gregory. He looked like he had the motor that he had prior to going to Denver, right? Which is kind of my whole problem with him when the 49ers traded for him. I didn't like the fact that he could turn it on and off. I like the players that just have it on permanently. But he looked motivated. He looked good. He looked strong. He looked like he had a nice burst. And he had a good sack on a third down play that, helped end a drive. What's your take, Mike? Let's hear
it. I just don't care for the player. I'll be completely honest with you. Like, it's cool that he's here. Congratulations, you got a sack. But we'll see how it goes. Like you said, it's certain guys that just take plays off and don't do what they're supposed to do or what you're expecting of them to do. And he's really, to me, he's one of those guys. Like, and so I hope I'm wrong. Maybe the 49ers find a way to motivate this guy and all that stuff, but I'm not going to sit here and pound my chest and say, oh, it was a good acquisition because of one game, because week one, we thought Drake Jackson had turned the corner and he's vanished since then also. I'm not going to do it. So I'll just see what happens. He's a guy that's always rubbed me the wrong way since he's been in the NFL. Just certain people value personal interest over the gain of the team.
That's fair. By the way, the Smitty, one loss and y'all go crazy. We're not going crazy. We're just talking ball. We're breaking down the game, going over what happened, what we disagree with, what we agree with.
And so what? Let's just say they're right. Let's just say what Smitty is saying is right. One loss and we go crazy. So are we just supposed to say, oh, it's just one game. Don't worry. We're Super Bowl bound. Next show. We can't talk about the loss. We can't dissect the loss. We dissect the wins. We sit here and go through all the positive plays after a win. We sit here and highlight every good Brock Purdy play that he makes. We can't analyze them negatively now. Like, what else are we supposed to do? That shit bothers me so fucking much when people want to critique the content creators on creating content. We are all reacting to what we saw. Are we just supposed to sit here and, oh, don't worry, guys, we're still tied for first in the NFC, so it's okay? Like, no, we're going to fucking talk about it. We're going to talk about it. We're going to dissect it. We're going to break it up. We're going to try to find out why these things happen and see if they're preventable. See if the errors of the 49ers ways are correctable. That's what we're here for. And if you have any kind of passion at all, you'd be reacting the same way.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Listen, that's the mentality of a person who roots for a franchise that is full of fucking losers, who's made the playoffs twice this century. Like, honestly, this team, of course, we're upset that this team lost. We actually have expectations this year, unlike the Cleveland Browns.
To be fair, I don't know if he's a Niners fan or not, but
I don't know. I'm looking at the brown in his logo. I don't know. At the same time, that's some loser mentality shit, man.
Yeah. Either way, yeah, we can dissect, we
learn
can
more
argue,
from the
we can
losses.
debate.
I learned more about how the team reacts to a loss and what they do recovering from a loss. Like the team played terribly. We can't say. Why do you think that they're above reproach? Why do you think they're above criticism? I don't know, man. If I do my job poorly, I expect to get criticized too.
Yep. Matt, did you have any thoughts on Gregory or similar to what Mike had?
I'm kind of with Mike. We've seen the flash in the pans, right? Where you'll see like a Kerry Hyder have a really good game or a Samson Ebicom have a good game one week, and then they're nowhere to be found in the stat sheet. He only played 26 snaps, despite the fact that he's been playing, football the whole. It's not like he's coming off the street or whatever, right? I don't know. He's a body. He's a body. I think that against better competition, because let's be real, 18 of 34 for 192 yards and 2 picks for PJ Walker. Not exactly blowing the doors off the building. It's not like the Cleveland Browns offense was anything special. Better competition, I would expect to see, something different. But, good for him in his debut. Nice debut. I want to see more. Essentially, if you can make Gregory and Jackson and some of the other guys as a rotation to bookend the other side across from Bosa, and Bosa can, finally turn it on after what seems to be like he looks like he's 75% effort Bosa right now. I'm not really feeling what they're doing. And I don't know if that's the difference between, Steve. I feel like, here's how I feel. I feel like if Bosa was doing what he was doing, right, and by the way, Eric Armstead, who I haven't even barely heard his name called, he hasn't done shit. Hasn't been disruptive, hasn't really been doing a lot. I know, not filling the stat sheet, blah, 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 blah. But he does, this team is not really Kareem Hunt got a bunch of yards on us. They're not defending them. The middle is soft of that defensive line.
You guys probably know I am one of the biggest Eric Armstead fans there is. And when I found out that they were missing a guard in this game, my brain said, oh, Armstead and Hargrave were about to feast. Yep. Nothing. No, and let's just say it's not nothing. Let's say I go back and do the all 22 watch and wow, he was really disruptive. Not enough. Not disruptive enough to be going against a backup offensive guard. And it's I'm going to try to stay on topic. I'll leave it there. I'm going to shut up for now. But those two guys make too much fucking money for us to not have blown up the middle of their offensive line every single snap. I'm sorry. You're getting paid way too much money to go out there and not be effective pieces like what you were supposed to be.
Tomlinson was doing on the other side for half, maybe less than half, and the 49ers were at full health.
And here's the thing. It's not like Kareem Hunt was burning to the edge. They got a lot of their damage up the middle. Cleveland had 160 yards rushing. Are you kidding me?
100 of that was after contact too.
Right. So I just think that there is, I think there is a disconnect with Steve Wilks, because I feel like if we got the effort from this defensive line with a Robert Saleh or D'Amico Ryans who are down on the sideline, those players are getting their asses chewed immediately. Right now, you got the voice coming at you. Got to pick up the little telephone thing, right? Oh yeah, okay, coach, okay. That's a whole bit of difference than Robert Saleh ass screaming at you in your face, right? And Coach K can only do so much. You got to have the defensive coordinator down there to back you up too. You know what I'm saying? And I think that Wilks is focused on the defensive backs, which they're playing okay, not great. Right. I don't know, man. I think there is a little bit of aggression that we've had in prior years that's missing. The edge is just missing, not the position, but the feeling, right? That kind of borderline chaotic feeling that the defense used to have. I don't feel like they have that right now. And so maybe there is something to that, but I don't feel like this defense is playing up to their capabilities.
Yeah. This kind of surprised me a little bit. Me and Sharp Kyle wasn't happy with the run defense. He was quoted by saying, when asked about it, I was disappointed in it. If I had to guess, it was our most missed tackles on the year. I thought they got our edges way too much. It was way too much, especially when you have a quarterback coming in who hasn't started yet. I don't think I've heard him talk this openly when critiquing the other side of the ball. Did you guys? What are your thoughts on this? How do you take that?
They did miss their most tackles. They missed 18 tackles.
Yeah.
That's wild. That's way too many. And what is it about this 49ers team that they play like shit and lose to backup quarterbacks? They do this all the time. Colt McCoy. They almost lost to what's his name? The guy that Myles Garrett almost beheaded with his own helmet. Mason Rudolph or whatever.
Mason Rudolph. But Stidham with the Cowboys. I mean, not the Cowboys, fucking Raiders game.
It's Marcus Mariota.
Marcus Mariota was, I guess he's a backup now, but he was a starter for the Falcons. But
this team plays down to competition in the worst ways possible.
Which I just said in the previous show. I'm so glad they haven't done that since Purdy came in. What do they do? Exactly that. So it's frustrating. It really is frustrating. But Mike, did you have anything? I was kind of shocked that he was that openly critiquing. Maybe a shot at Wilkes.
I've actually criticized Kyle before about how he throws shots at the defense when his offense doesn't. So I wasn't surprised by that whole thing. However, again, a big part of my show was talking about the defense, and I think that I know it's just one game. But if we're all honest with ourselves, this is not the Robert Saleh 49ers defense. This is not the DeMeco Ryans defense. This is a very different looking defense, and the players are starting to notice it. The players are starting to say something about it. I'll tell you guys, between Fred Warner's comment, I don't want to feel this way anymore. Nick Bosa said something that I thought was super, super layered. He made a comment at the podium after the game, and he said that the question was, with around 3 minutes left in the game, you made that sack. Did you feel like the game was over at that point? And he said, no, I thought it was a good call. I think we executed well on that play, but I think we should have made adjustments earlier in the game, and we didn't. And I'm sitting here thinking, okay, that's cool. What adjustments did he talk? That's what I'm thinking. And then another person asked a question not related to that question at all. He answers the question, and then one of the Matts come right back, and they say, "Hey, you were asked about the adjustments. Do you think those adjustments that can happen quickly, or do you think this is something that happens long term?" And his response was, "Well, injuries are a part of the game. Like the NFL is a long season; everyone has to deal with injuries, but we should account for them sooner than what we did." Something along those lines. I'm paraphrasing. And so I went back and I listened to Kyle Shanahan's injury report, and there were 4 players on the injury report from during the game: Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, Trent Williams, and Odom. Well, what adjustments could Bosa have been talking about being made based off of injuries that didn't happen during the game? Because Odom wasn't out there. He wasn't out there. He's a safety. So it sounds to me like we had a defensive plan. We knew or figured out that Greenlaw wasn't going to be there, and we just didn't care. We didn't care. It was like, oh well, this is still our plan. This is still our scheme. This is still our game plan, and they didn't adjust. To me, that's what it sounded like. So I'm just saying that I think that the team is starting to lay the groundwork for blame to be thrown to the defensive coordinator, and I don't think that's right. I think they're setting this guy up to be a scapegoat of some sort. And the reason I say that is because there's never in the history of the NFL been a defensive coordinator that was hired and he didn't bring anybody with him. He hired no new staff members. Not a single new staff member came with Steve Wilkes. Not one. I've never in my entire life seen it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's happened before. Someone please find it and tell me. I feel like they hired Wilkes to be a puppet. This is what we do. This is what we run. We have to get someone in this position. We don't want to promote anybody that's down below. Do you want the job or not? Keep running the same shit that we're running. And now he's been here. We're 5-0. Let me start implementing some of my own shit. Maybe they don't like it. I don't know what the case is, but I've never seen this happen before.
To add on to that, Mike, he even kept the same verbiage. He didn't even bring in his own verbiage. He told them, I'll switch all of my calls to keep your guys' calls. That way nothing changes.
I'm wearing all black. Y'all can't see my arms, but they're up in the air. He's a puppet. He's a puppet. He's the fall guy before there's even a fall to be taken. Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. And I feel like the guys on the defensive side of the ball are getting frustrated. I feel like Kyle's getting frustrated, but I'm not letting that go. Sorry, not sorry. 19 points. Kyle, you're the offensive guru. You're the offensive genius. Figure it the fuck out. Score more points, bro. Score more points. Sorry.
I do want to address one thing that you said, where you said, hey, the game plan is the game plan. We don't care. Drake Greenlaw's not here. We don't care. When they started giving up stuff in the middle of the field, do you think they should have cared at that point? Isn't that Wilkes' job to make an adjustment? Yes. Like, I get that, yes, he is a puppet. He's not there to disrupt the apple cart, right? But at the same time, you can't just like not do your fucking job too. At some point, you got to be like, all right, cool. Like, I know what you guys do, but this shit ain't working. Because I don't think that the players would push back necessarily if they're getting bullied around like they were. I mean, just drive after drive after drive, shit up the middle. Like, at some point, if he's just like, hey, look, we're going to do a little switch up, right? Like, this is what we're going to do. Especially once you got to halftime and you try to make that adjustment, that's where that needs to happen. And they just didn't look like they did anything. So I get what you're saying. I know they're setting up Wilkes to be the fall guy, but he's not exactly trying to buck against that either.
Right. Yeah. Call something different. Who gives a fuck what they're telling you? Kyle cannot run the offense and the defense. I'm sorry. He can't. He can't.
No,
I'm not
no
saying
head coach
I don't want
can.
to see it.
That's not their responsibility.
Right. He cannot. So Wilkes, grow a pair. And if you're going to get fired, you're going to be the fall guy anyway. At least do something what you want to do out there. Like, I don't want to hear that bullshit. Do something, bro. Yeah. Do something. It makes absolutely no sense. No sense at all.
So the last question I have for you, gentlemen, before we get into our chat pack is Brock Purdy obviously had a rough game, right? Finished the day 12 for 27, 125 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, was sacked 3 times. Before I get to my question, by the way, did he have 15 starts going into yesterday? End of Sunday? Do you guys know the number? 14?
This was his 11th regular season start, and I think 3 postseason starts.
Thank you. Okay, so let's just say 11th regular season start. For the people who have said 11 regular season games playing well, it's too early to say he's good. Let's pump the brakes. But after one bad start, you're ready to throw in the towel and say he's bad? Like, come on, man. Let's be real. Let's be real here. Performances fluctuate up and down. Things affect you, whether good defense, injuries, allow things to fluctuate. So if you weren't willing to crown him after 11, don't be willing to toss him in the trash after 1, because that's just bull. But my question for you, gentlemen, is, did you see anything on Sunday that worried you about Purdy going forward? Anything that you saw from him that you really didn't like, you really never saw before? Or was it just a case of, this is just a really good defense and we got to give them their flowers?
I felt like there's something to Purdy has a little bit of a gunslinger mentality, right? Like he'll make the big boy throws. In this game where grip was an issue, where weather was an issue, where protection at times was an issue, I still feel like he tried to force the ball into spots. And I think that is, you don't want to take away that aggression, but in previous games where you would see Brock Purdy maybe take a throwaway or something like that, he was trying to make too much happen. It's where you start getting into the intentional grounding play where he's like trying to rush outside, right? And he's not going to beat the guy to the edge. And then he throws off his back foot, doesn't get back to the line of scrimmage. There's something to be said for taking the Tom Brady, taking the veteran quarterback route, where if you see a play blown up immediately, just throw it at your running back's feet. Just kill the play, move on to the next one. I think that there was too much unforced errors and bad positioning from Brock Purdy, where he was trying to make too much happen, where he was trying to do too much in a game where the conditions and the situation were maybe for the first time bigger than what Brock Purdy as the sum of its parts were. This is where the physical limitations come in, right? Like, hey man, he's got 9.25-inch hands in a windy, wet situation. Not having great arm strength and having on smaller on the NFL side hands is going to affect how you throw the ball. Maybe you need to play more conservatively and take what the defense gives you rather than trying to force to the next level or whatever. And I think that it showed a little bit of a lack of awareness on his part for the first time. For the first time, to me, he looked like a quarterback that had a 7th-round pedigree, that was still in that first full season window, right? That first 17-game window. He looked a little bit over his skis for this game. Now, I don't know what that's going to be going forward. I don't know if that's something that he can adjust from, but I did see a little bit of a crack in the, too cool for school Purdy facade. I think he has to play more within himself when the situation dictates for it, and he needs to adjust his style to the situation rather than just, oh, I'm Brock Purdy, I can do this all the time.
Yeah. Mike, did you see anything? Same question.
No, I mean, look, people are going to overreact. That's what happens after a loss. The passion and the emotions are still really, really high. I'm going to read the stat line to you guys of a quarterback, and you tell me who it is. It was 22 of 40. That's 55% completion. He threw for 248 yards, 1 touchdown, 4 picks, and he was sacked 3 times. He finished the game with a QB rating of 42.5.
Was this from Sunday? Or
No.
just
No.
Is that a
Just
Josh Allen stat?
This is just in history.
Tom Brady? How long are we talking? That's Tom Brady?
This is Tom Brady. 2005. This is the same year they won the Super Bowl. This was the year after they won a Super Bowl. So they won in 2004 and 2005, and this was his game against the Kansas City Chiefs. Listen, bad shit happens to the greatest of players. I'm not saying Brock Purdy is on Tom Brady's level. I'm not saying that he's great, but every single NFL quarterback has a game they wish they didn't have. By the way, this was not his worst statistical game either. I didn't go out there and just type in what is Tom Brady's worst game. That's not it. My point is there's ebbs and flows to NFL careers. Some games just don't work out for you. And this was one of the ones for Brock Purdy. This was the first one in a long line of a lot of success. Is it something to be concerned about? Absolutely. 100% we should be concerned, because now I'm interested to see how he bounces back. I want to know how he answers. I want to know his mental wherewithal. I want to know if he can really shake it off. We sat here and said before, oh, he threw an interception. He came right back the next drive. He was fine. It's easy to shake it off in game. How is it when you got to sit with it for the whole week? Do you really have that 24-hour rule or 48-hour rule in mind? This is where I really want to see it. This is when I want to know if the rubber's going to meet the road right now. I got to see how you answer. And guess what? It's not just me. The whole world's going to be watching. It's prime time Monday Night Football. Yeah. It is prime fucking time. It's time for us to do what the Cowboys just did. Cowboys got dog walked by the 49ers. And they said, hey, guys, everyone's watching. We got to go out there and do something right now. We got to show them that, hey, that was an aberration. Like that's not who we are. We got to show them that we're for real this year. We got to show them that, hey, the Niners got us. We'll be back, though. This is the Niners' time now to do that same exact thing. Brock Purdy, you got your worst worst game of your career so far. That's cool. That's cool. Everyone has them. This may not actually finish being your worst game of your career. Doesn't mean you can't have a nice, long, promising career. So I'm very interested to see how he answers back. I want to know. I want to know about his mental wherewithal. And so we're going to get a chance to see it, man. I think it's too soon for anybody to try to put him in any kind of box. And I've been that guy. My story has been consistent. When people were trying to don him as elite, he's really, really good, Mike. I don't know what else you need to see. And I've been saying I want to see longevity. I want to see consistency. 10 games is not enough for me to say, hey, yes, he's here. He's elite. I'm gonna reserve that same exact right in defending my quarterback, right? It's too soon to say he's a bust either. It's too soon to say he's not good either. So I don't want to hear it either way. This is one of the things we have to sit back on and see how it shakes out.
So real quick, this is that was his 12th regular season start yesterday, Sunday. Keep saying yesterday, right? You said he had 11 going into it. So
no. I think this was 11.
Oh, this was 11. Okay.
He had 3 playoff games.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
So out of 11 games, what other quarterbacks have the standard put upon them that they have to single-handedly drag their team to victory, right? Which quarterback within their first regular season worth of starts is, if you can't do it without your best players, then you're probably not that good. It's like, let's be honest. Why are we putting this ridiculously high standard on Brock Purdy? Just because he's played well up until this point, he's still essentially a rookie, when it comes to games experience. He started a lot of games at Iowa State, but that's not NFL. Like once you get to the NFL, things completely change, faster, stronger, smarter. So I just think we need to pump the brakes a little bit. I'm not too worried about it. I don't want to say the rain is concerning that he played that poorly. I saw a comment in here, maybe wear gloves next time. I don't know. The ball slipping out of his hands concerned me. But I think other than that, there's a lot to learn from and grow from.
Could it not be just one of those things, though? Because, Zach, you and I were there in person in the rain when he dog-walked Tom Brady last year.
That's true.
So it could be rain, wind. It could be the ball they were using and how it was prepped pre-game. It could have been a number of things that could have been that. I don't want to look too much into that because he has a really good rain game and he has a really bad rain game. You just don't know with the weather. It's too early to say. And, Mike, I saw you point out last week, it's like where you were like, hey, man, it's okay that you can like Purdy and not think he's elite. It's okay that you can do this. You got so much shit for it, but here you are, right? And then all the people that are coming for Brock Purdy's head now are just as guilty as the ones that came for you. I have never seen a quarterback with such a dichotomous viewpoint from each side of the fan base, so radically entrenched in their position. You would think from the outside looking in that he's either trash or he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. And to me, he's like a good quarterback. He's not average. He's not above average. I would say he's good. And that's what this team has lacked. I think Jimmy Garoppolo is an average quarterback. I think that Brian Hoyer and CJ Beathard and Nick Mullins below average quarterbacks. He's got a good quarterback now. He doesn't have to be elite of the elite. But people also forget that this dude was Mr. Irrelevant. Like I said on the preview show, I've never seen such expectations for a dude that has less than one full season of starts and is looked upon as, oh man, he's either all or he's nothing. I don't understand it. You're pointing out Tom Brady stats. I'll throw out a stat line for you. 26 of 49 for 270 yards, 0 touchdowns, 2 picks. Who is that?
I'm going to go with Peyton Manning.
What about you, Zach?
Josh Allen.
Patrick Mahomes got dog walked. That's a Super Bowl stat line. That's a Super Bowl stat line from that 31-9 victory that the Brady and the Bucks beat him in the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
So you're looking at barely over 50% passing, under 300 yards on 49 attempts, no touchdowns, 2 picks. Yep. Every quarterback has a bad game. It's too early to tell for Brock Purdy.
Yeah.
You don't have to pull everything from this game, just like you didn't have to pull everything from the Cowboys game where he had 4 touchdowns. You don't have to do it. It's an ever-evolving process, and he's been good so far. I'm with Mike where I think this is going to be a very important week. We came off a nationally televised game where the 49ers played their best total game of the season, a 42-10 butt whooping of a team that's expected to make the playoffs, right? They lose a 10 a.m. East Coast ugly game that most people probably weren't even watching. And the 49ers know that it's a terrible game, right? But the national media is like, oh, what happened? Oh, a lot of them are just kind of questioning. They have a chance to come out and make a statement on Monday Night Football on the road against Minnesota. And it sets up nicely for him because Justin Jefferson's not going to play, right? Brock Purdy's still going to face some pressure because the defensive line for the Minnesota Vikings is actually still pretty good, depending on if Everson Griffin can play or not. But Danielle Hunter's there, right? You got other players there. There's an opportunity here for Brock Purdy to make it through the week. And like Mike said, are you looking at does he truly have the capability to go, okay, I'm going to be upset about this for 24 hours and then it's time to move on? Or is this something that's going to linger? We saw after the Pittsburgh game where Patrick Peterson was talking crap before the game, that Brock Purdy had a little bit of that arrogant swag in him, where after the game he was like, yeah. Was that pass on Patrick Peterson? Like he was keeping receipts, right? He's got a little bit of that swagger. Now, is that swagger going to be something that's only present when things are going well? Is he going to be a front runner, or is he somebody that can overcome adversity and have a bad game and then push it out of his mind like the great ones do and come back? So that's going to be the true test, because that Patrick Mahomes stat line, really bad. But guess what? They won the Super Bowl the next year. So
look, just to wrap this up, I think Brock Purdy, football's a team sport, right? But the quarterback is essentially, the point guard. He's distributing the ball to help facilitate the offense, move the offense down the field. All I'll say to wrap this up is he got his team in position to win it. His job was done. He did it at the end of the day, as poorly as he did from minute 1 through 59.50. He, at the end of the day, put his team in position to win it. On the flip side, up at MetLife, I don't know if you saw what Jalen Hurts did, but they throw the ball up. He throws his 3rd interception of the day. I'd much rather be in the situation where my quarterback leads me to make a field goal to win it.
And I know Mike pointed out that there was a penalty that saved the drive, but I will say that the last few throws that Brock Purdy had, the one to Jennings, the one to Ayuk, those were his most accurate throws of the game, other than the one that Ayuk dropped. And that to me was more encouraging, right? You could say whatever you want about the penalties or whatever, but when it came to crunch time, right, you're looking for your 3-point shooter to hit the shot, right? Yep. You're looking for your guy, your hitter to drive in a run. Brock Purdy hit his guys and put them in position right at the end. And I think that was the most encouraging sign. We'll see if that can carry over. I want to see how he responds. This is going to be a very important week for the 49ers coming up on Monday Night Football. And I can't wait to see it, just to get the taste of this one just out, right? We got to move on, because this game was terrible all the way around. So the 49ers should feel bad about the game. Fred Warner should feel like that he doesn't ever want to feel like that again. I don't ever want to feel like that again in terms of like how this season is going, right? This to me was the worst I've felt since Brock Purdy's elbow exploded. Yeah. Just from a standpoint of like, it's just the opportunities were there. And this to me was almost worse than that, because in that game they were never in it, right? They were in it the whole time, and you're just waiting for them to do something because they have the capability, and they just didn't do it. And so that's almost like a disappointment rather than like, well, there's nothing we can do, No, there was something they could do in this one, and that makes it almost worse.
I know we got to get to the chat pack. I got one quick question for you guys. Is this loss easier to digest than a blowout? That's my only question. If we had have got blown out or a close one.
I'll say yes right away. Because if you got blown out, everything went wrong. Every single thing went wrong. Nothing happened right. You got to go look in the mirror, especially after you just blew out Dallas. If they were to have lost this game to PJ Walker and the Browns without Nick Chubb, they lost this game 30-10 or 31-3. There's some shit would have had to have happened, because that's unacceptable. From a team of this caliber, it would be completely unacceptable. Matt, I don't know if you're nodding, so I assume you agree.
No, I agree with you. The fact that it seemed like everything that could go wrong did for this team, the fact that it seemed like nobody had their best game, the fact that there was a million penalties. I feel like I saw more penalties on the field than Brock Purdy pass attempts. The refs were out there chucking their flags more than Brock Purdy was chucking the football. I feel like the fact that they went to the end of the game and had a chance to win at the last second, much more palatable loss, because it means that their talent is so overwhelming that even when they play like absolute dog water, they're still in the game. There's nothing to say after you get blown out. Sorry, Micah Parsons. When you get blown out by 32, you weren't the better team.
You're not even on the same level.
You're not even at the same level. So to me, I think this is much more easily digestible than what Cowboys fans probably had to go through last week.
Okay.
Real quick, shout out to Diamador Lenore. Another pick. Playing better and better every week. So just wanted to get that
Yeah,
out there.
he did have the one. And I don't know what happened. I haven't seen the all 22, but I
When he
know he
fell?
fell down on a deep
Yeah.
pass attempt to Amari Cooper. I
I
don't
think
know
he
exactly
just
what happened.
lost his footing.
It looked like he got partially pie faced and then lost his footing, right? Like it looked like Amari got his arm into him and then he slipped. But yeah, overall, I thought he was doing better. And like Mike said, to me, he's more consistently in the area and on the ball than Charvarius Ward. Ward got mossed this game.
Mhm.
Oh, badly.
Badly. I don't know, man. Charvarius Ward making me nervous a little bit sometimes.
Lenore might be the best corner on this team right now.
He is.
Mike, I think you said that previously,
Mhm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't look now. I like his little celebration. That's dope. Locked in. All right. Chat pack time, baby. Chat, please answer your comments as well in the chat. If you
Sorry, I know you got to pay bills before.
Thank you very much.
Or...
Yes, we do.
Okay.
We'll be right back. Just want to take a second to thank today's sponsor, MyBookie. As the better, you demand perfection, and MyBookie delivers. NFL, college football, and a brand new cash out system gives you options to bet and win all season long. The first 2 legs of your parlay hit, cash out early and use the funds on another bet. Or you could let it ride for the chance of a bigger payday. Join the MyBookie family for a season filled with odds boosts, free bets, and super contests. To get started, all you got to do is super simple. Go to mybookie.ag right now and register for an account for free. That's right, it's free. And whenever it is you're ready to make your first deposit, just use promo code HIVE. It's right here on the screen, HIVE, to grab a welcome bonus on the house. That's our gift to you for being a part of the 49ers Hive family. That's promo code HIVE, HIVE, to claim your deposit bonus. And for a limited time, you also get a free chip to use in the MyBookie casino. You can bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie. Now let's get back to the show. Shout out MyBookie, guys. Go take advantage of the deposit bonus. Code HIVE. Scrolling across the bottom of your screen. All right. Chat pack time. Chat, like I said, please answer your answers please type your answers in the chat as well. If you had to write your own personal definition of the word success, what would it be? Which, by the way, this question reminds me of Croc, because I saw Croc put it on X the other day that he basically has everything he's ever wanted. So shout out to Croc, because that dude works hard for sure. If you had to define success in your own words, chat, how would you define it?
I think my definition is going to be cheesy as hell. It's accomplishing whatever goal you've ever, strived to accomplish. That sounds like super bland, right? But I don't think everyone wants to be a movie star. I don't think everyone wants to be, the best in their field. I think there are some people that say, hey, I just want to get by and I want to maintain my lifestyle. And if that's what your goal is and you're doing it, how is that not success? Right? So I think it's whatever goals you have set for yourselves, achieving those goals.
Okay. I like that. Matt, do you want to go? You want me to go?
Yeah, no, I think it's setting goals for yourself, looking to improve yourself every day, and putting forth your best effort. You might not reach that goal, but if you've done the best you can and you've become an asset to yourself, to the people around you, to society at large, then I think you could be viewed as successful. Just don't be a drag and don't be a piece of shit.
Yeah. I think success for me, I assume most men are like this, but being able to go to bed at night feeling good about yourself, like knowing you did everything you could that day to better yourself, to provide for your family, to anything that needed to be done, you got done, or at the very least tried your best to do it. Because there's just so much, not to get too deep here, but there's so many expectations placed on men that it really is a lot at the end of the day that your head's just sitting there racing, right? There's so many things. So success would be going to bed basically with a clear head every night, knowing that you did everything you could that day. That's how I would define it. So, All right, guys. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We appreciate you. The 49ers lost this one, but they're going to get back on track Monday night. We'll be live either later in the week or this weekend to preview the Vikings game on Monday night. Follow us on X. All of our handles are on the screen for more details. I got to update this background so I can get the Twitter logo out of here and the X logo in here. Mike, I'm sure the fans already know where to find you. Let them know.
Yeah, guys, check me out over on the YouTube page, Nothing But Niners, but also head on over to the Patreon. It is patreon.com/NB9ERS. A lot of bonus content over there. We even have some non-football related podcasts that air exclusively over there. So make sure you guys head there. All right, patreon.com/NB9ERS.
All right, go check it out, guys. Matt, carry us out.
Absolutely. Tough loss. Not much else to say. I mean, we've covered it pretty in depth. One loss isn't going to make or break the season, though. Put this one behind us. Go out there, take care of business on Monday night, national TV against Minnesota. Let's go home and take a win. And, hopefully we didn't really talk about it, but McCaffrey and Debo and Trent all have a chance to play. We take our blessings as they are, take out of it what we can, put the rest behind us. That being said, for Zach, for Mike, for myself, tough loss, but it's not forever. Let's get them next time. So with that being said, until next time, everybody, go Niners.